Matthew chapter 18, 21, 35 is a story where Jesus uses the parable of unforgiving servants to explain what Christian forgiveness looks like. In this passage, there are three important biblical principles about Christian forgiveness that we should know. First, knowing God's forgiveness is immense and unconditional. In the parables of unforgiving servants, the servants owed massive debts of 10,000 talents. A talent was about 75 pounds of gold. 1 talent is equivalent 6,000 denarii. 1 denarius was a day wage for labor back then. So if someone wanted to pay back 10,000 talents, it would take about 60 million days to work. Could you imagine that? We owe to God. This represents how huge God's forgiveness is toward us. No matter how much we've sinned for fallen short, God offers always free grace and mercy. That's why we said a thank you. The passage talk about God's forgiveness is enormous and unconditional. It is beyond human understanding and measurements. When you truly understand how much we've been forgiven, it shows us how valuable you are. The second point is this. What we need to understand is that as a Christian, we should take the initiative to begin the process of reconciliations with those who have problem with us. There are three key aspects of Christian reconciliation process in Matthew chapter 8, verse 15 and 17. Private confrontation first. If you believe someone has sinned or wronged you, you should approach them privately to address the issues. If the person refuses to listen after the private conversation, take 1 or 2 others with you to address the matter. The purpose of this bring others is in witness to ensure fairness and provide multiple perspectives about the issues. Final step is to bring to the church if you could not solve the problem. If the person still refuses to listen after involving others, bring that issue, tell the community, people, because church has authority. Jesus gave us authority to reconcile individuals in the church. If these three processes of reconciliation failed, the church should step aside and let them go as they wish it. What's that mean? They have their own responsibility. Christian way of reconciliation is not simple in the church. It takes a lot of time and energy to solve the problem, but it is worthy because Jesus came to die on the cross to reconcile with the people. You want to be simple? You want to be quick? Go out there and take a court. You can have a fast result that you want, but be patient and go through the process of the Christian reconciliations. Peter, who was listening in this process, asked Jesus, how many times should we forgive and ask for forgiveness from people following this process? This process looks hard and taking time. Jesus said, you must forgive and ask forgiveness from people through your entire life, because the works of reconciliation is unlimited ministry for all Christians. We should remember that the ministry of reconciliation is mutual and reciprocal process. It requires at least 3 parties working together in agreements to complete it. Someone said, God forgive me, that's it. No, not that's it. You need a person you go to and ask his or her forgiveness for you. God needs their signature to complete the process. Other times, we may ask forgiveness from people, but not ask forgiveness from God. It's not complete yet. I'll share practical ways we can apply in our lives to reconcile with the God and other people. First, spending time in prayer is one of the best ways to reconcile with God. It is a time to confess our wrongdoings and seek God's forgiveness. It should be the daily practice for Christians before you go to bed. For example, if you wear sandals and walk on the dirt road all day, what should you do when you get home and before you go to bed? Wash your feet because your feet is dirty. If you don't don't do it in your room, your bed, and your bed cover get dirty. You sleep in the dirty. Christian prayer is the time of spiritual cleansing process. It allows us to confess and ask for forgiveness, cleansing our hearts and mind before God. Jesus Christ clearly said this process in John chapter 13, verse 10. Jesus wrapped a towel around his waist and washed disciples' feet. Peter stood up and said, "Lord, you shall not, never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." Christians, you and I are washed the way blood of Jesus Christ, but still we walk on the street, applied on our feet. At least we always, every day, wash our feet, avoiding the dirty, bring in our bedroom. If you are wrong due to fellow Christian, that's one of the problems. You should reconcile with them as soon as possible because they will pray to God day and night. If your name is popped up in somebody else's prayer, God hears that. Let not your name on some Christian's prayer as a bad name. That's why if you do wrong, you knew that, go reconcile as soon as possible. Second, forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. Forgive people and ask forgiveness for the people.